Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time for the Learning Labs, it's good to have you here. If you've been here before, it's great to have you back. Today we have a little bit of a special Learning Lab. So if any of you have been here before, I'm Chase Linsenbigler. I manage the partner enablement here at WiSys. Typically, I'm performing the Learning Labs, but this time we have WiSys Application Developer Gabe Plank here with us. Gabe is, very heavily intertwined in our agility shipping product. He's involved in the development, the management of the product, and he knows all the ins and outs of agility shipping. So I have him joining us today to give us a whole agility shipping overview, since we have a lot of new development to the product with our 569.5 release a few weeks back. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Gabe, and he's going to go through all the great ins and outs of agility shipping. Go ahead, Gabe.
All right, thank you, Chase. Welcome, everybody. As Chase said, we're excited about this product, agility shipping. I'm going to do my best to give you a very high-level overview of as much as we can. And of course, if you have questions, don't be afraid to get them to us, and hopefully we have time at the end here to answer them, and if we run out of time to answer them, we will definitely get back to you through email. Today we're looking at several things. We'll go through what is agility shipping. We'll look at all the setup that's involved. We have worked agility shipping into our main framework, and there's a lot of automation that can happen that can really make your processes easier and more efficient. We'll look at the agility shipping UI, and then also some upcoming features that will be released, in the next couple point releases. So let's get started. What is agility shipping? Agility shipping is our newest add-on that deals with small package shipping. Like I said, it's built into our agility framework, and it integrates directly with UPS, FedEx, and USPS. Since it is built into our framework, we build it into our fulfillment manager. Everything is then handled within agility. All the setups and mappings for all the automation is set up in agility. This allows us to easily tailor a lot of things to match your shipping processes. And the nice additional benefit is it does not require a separate program or database to maintain. Agility shipping makes web calls to the carriers. And this is then not, this means you don't have to have another program that is keeping track of the data. It is kept track of in our database that's already in your system. Additionally, since we are making those web calls, the end of day process that some people have come to know is no longer needed. And then recently at 569.5, we've released in a beta testing mode international shipping with shipments originating from the US. So let's go ahead and look at the setup process. The setup process is a little bit different for each carrier. Each carrier has some differences in what they require. All of them will require the customers to set up a developer account. The UPS setup is probably by far the easiest. You go online and you set up a developer account with UPS, and then they send you credentials. Those credentials are put into our carrier settings, which I'll show you here momentarily. You then have the ability to create test shipments. And once you're happy with the process and how it works, you simply click a go live button and you're off and shipping in UPS. FedEx is a bit more complex in how they deal with things. Step one is you have to go and set up a developer account with FedEx. FedEx then sends you test credentials. Those test credentials are added into the carrier settings. you go about the process of creating and shipping test shipments. After that, you have to go through a process called label certification, and that's where you print out test labels from your label printers. You have to submit those to FedEx with some required paperwork, and once they approve that they are scannable, they'll send you back a different set of credentials that you will then put in to the live portion of the carrier settings, and then you're off and running and shipping. And lastly is for USPS. We handle all of our USPS shipping through a company called Indicia. So with that, you have to, once again, set up a test account with Indicia. You enter your credentials into our settings, you create your test shipments, and then after that, when you're ready to go live, you have to reach back out to them and set up a live account. Indicia does have a monthly fee that they charge for their service, and that varies depending on some service options that they offer. Once you get your live credentials back, you put that into the carrier settings and you're off and shipping. I will go ahead now and show you where those carrier settings are set up. You'll see in Agility Explorer, in our option setting, we have a tab called Agility Shipping. And under carrier settings, this is where you would turn on Agility Shipping. After you turn on Agility Shipping, you then decide what carriers you're going to what carriers you will use. If you're going to use UPS, FedEx, and USPS, then obviously you'll check all three boxes. If not, you just check what you're going to use. In this case, I'll go ahead and check all three. And then under the tabs is where you put in the credential information that you're sent from UPS, FedEx, and USPS. They each have a different setup. And then you'll notice that when we first click on the tab, it says we're in test mode. And this is important to know that you are in test mode versus live mode, so you know that you're sending just test shipments or live shipments. So we have our credentials here. FedEx then has additional credentials. Specifically, if you use SmartPost, there's some additional information needed if you are a SmartPost user. And then United States Postal Service has their settings as well. And then once you have done all your testing and you're ready to go live, it's as simple as clicking this button. And now any shipments I make will actually go to their live servers and not their test servers. The additional thing that is important to know is if you have multiple locations you're shipping from, you will need to go through this process for each location. USPS, FedEx require a separate shipping account by location. So if you have a warehouse in Ohio, warehouse in Florida, warehouse in California, you'll need to set up an account for each location. And we have set up an additional setting screen for those additional locations. So if you're a customer that is only shipping from one location, you would use the main carrier settings. And then as you add locations, you come into the shipping accounts, and you can see here that I have additional warehouses set up to have additional shipping accounts set up based on their location. Moving into some of our other settings, there's a couple different ways that, and this is specifically if you have multiple locations you're shipping from, this is a way to control the from address on the shipping labels. We can pull it from a couple different locations. The first being the company table. So if you want your from address on every shipping label, no matter what warehouse it ships from, to have your main company information, then you would choose the company table as your from address definition. The next one would be location based. If you wanted to have the from address on your shipping labels be based on the warehouse it was shipping from, then you would choose the location table as your from address definition. The final one would be a combination of the two, and that is the location / company name. So the company name is coming from the company table, but the address is coming from the location. Moving on from there, in the basic settings is also a way to standardize your insurance declaration. So this is what is added to the package for insurance. The standard being nothing's really added, it is just being shipped out. And then you can choose, do you want to add that insurance declaration based on the line price or the line cost? Moving forward with this next set of options, I just want to preface this by saying all but one of these options moving forward is you can preset them so that every shipment has this, but later on in the UI, you are able to adjust them on the fly one by one. So we'll start with the feature to require signature. If this box is set in the settings, every shipment that goes out will require a signature unless it's unchecked by shipment. Additionally, you can also take that one step further and require an adult signature, which is generally 21 years or older. Okay, moving on from there, we have our reference field. You can set up by customer, and for all customers, default values that will go into reference fields on the shipping labels. That is done here in the reference field mapping. You can see I have, in this example, a reference field 1 and 2 set up for a UPS label. And if I open up the properties for this, there are many different things you can have it automatically look up. So in this situation, I'm having it pull in the doc num, the order number, on reference line 1, and on reference line 2, the num at card, which is generally like a purchase order. Additionally, in there, you can stack multiple segments together to create whatever it is you would want in that reference field. And it can be a static, it could be a date, it could be a time, or it could be a column from order header, order lines. Those are the SAP tables, or our package shipment table, or our package table. So a lot of options that can be customized. But once again, once you get into the UI, which I'll show you here shortly, that can be changed on the fly as well. Here I will show you an example of how they show up on the labels. Now with UPS, you'll notice that there's the option to have a reference line 1, 2, and 3. UPS actually only will print reference lines 1 and 2. Reference line 3, I believe, can still be searched, online, but their API and their label only prints 1 and 2. So that's something important to remember. You can see on the right that the full screenshot of a test label, and then in this lower portion of the label, you'll see where reference line 1 and 2 are printed out. For FedEx labels, they label theirs a little bit differently. They're labeled as in reference, invoice, RMA, PO, and department, and you'll see that shows up just below the to address information. And then finally, the United States Postal Service reference fields, they show up right here on the right-hand side of the to address. All right, next I'm going to talk about some of the automating that that we use to determine what carrier to use. And you can get as granular or as broad as you want with this. So what we're looking at here is our shipping type mapping. And this is set up for all the carriers. So there's a section for UPS, FedEx, and United States Postal Service. And what this is showing us is all of our transport codes in SAP. So let me pop over to SAP really quick. And you can see I have all my transport codes here. And I chose in this example to go granular. You don't have to go this granular. So I broke it down by the different service types that UPS and FedEx offers. If you want to keep it as broad as just ship UPS, you can just have UPS or just FedEx. The important thing is that you do have to come in here and map everything so that the program knows you want to ship UPS or FedEx, and then that is what enables and disables the appropriate buttons. So in this situation, I have UPS ground transport code at SAP, and then you choose what service type you want it to call up. And in this situation, it's ground. And then the additional thing that you will set is the payment type. These payment types are a little bit different from UPS and FedEx in their language, but they're basically the same thing. Prepaid, it means that you are going ahead and paying for the shipment as the shipper. And then in this situation, it will be written back into the delivery into SAP. So then it can be added to an invoice. The other option for prepaid is this no freight option. So that's the same thing, whereas you're prepaying as the shipper, but in a no freight situation, it will not be written back to the delivery in SAP. And then the rest, the freight collect and the third party, those are pretty self-explanatory. And this last one, freight pay code, we'll get into in just one moment. So when I'm getting started, I go ahead and set up and just UPS, and I set the service type I want and the payment type. Now going back to what I said earlier is all of these can be changed except for one thing, and that is the payment type. When it's at the time of shipping and you've pulled up the Agility Shipping UI, you can change the service type last minute. So if something was meant to go out by ground per the sales order, but it's running late, so you decided to next day air it, the shipper can go ahead and do that. However, the shipper cannot change the payment type. So next we'll cover the freight pay code mapping. And this is yet taking the automation to another level. In SAP, we have a user-defined field, AGY freight pay code. And this allows the sales team or your order entry team to determine how the payment of that shipping cost will be taken care of. In this situation, I have 4 freight pay codes set up, and these can be completely customized to whatever fits your needs. In this situation, I have bill to customer, so that is going to be that prepaid status. I have a prepaid but do not bill the customer, third party, and freight collect. So in these situations, if I want to use the freight pay code, I would then set all these payment options to freight pay code. So then when I had an order that was set to, in this situation, UPS second day air and a bill to customer, it would look for this transport code UPS second day air and see that I had a freight pay code, and then it would come over to this freight pay code mapping table. And from there is where you set the payment type. So in this situation, I've billed a customer. The sender is going to pay that, or prepaid. The prepaid but do not bill is the no freight, where I, as the shipper, am paying that freight ahead of time, but we're not going to write it back to SAP. Third party is third party, and freight collect is freight collect. Moving into some of our other setup options, we have added in quite a few different ways that you can add handling charges within Agility Shipping as well. A lot of people add them a lot of different ways. You can see in the top section, the markup rates. You can add a percentage of the shipping cost. You can add a fixed markup rate. You can add a handling fee, and then there's also a minimum shipping charge, additional shipping charge. At the bottom, you can also add charges based on a per package. So if you had a shipment with 1 package, 2 package, you can add those going forward. In this situation, you can see I have a first package charge of $10, and then each additional package would be an additional $5 handling. You can also set a maximum, but if you don't want a maximum, you just leave it at 0. And the last portion is the rates, this contract rate section. This is what is written back to SAP on the delivery note. If you use list rates, that is going to be the advertised commercial rate that UPS or FedEx has for anybody to go out and ship. That is what is written back at the time of shipment into SAP. If you have used contract rates selected, that would mean then your contracted rate, which in a lot of shippers' situation is a lot lower, that is the amount that is written back to the delivery in SAP. So that provides some additional flexibility. The other setup that needs to happen is this setup for freight write back. That is done in our packing and shipping section, and the shipping freight write back. This is where you define the SAP account where the freight and handling charges are written back. In this situation, I have a expense account in SAP called freight and one called handling, and I'll show you those on a delivery here soon. You can also break this out by warehouse. So if each warehouse needs a different account, you can do that as well, and that'll be based on where that order is shipping from. And then there's some setup for third-party shipping. So this would be a situation where your customer or your company is shipping to your customer, but billing yet another party for the shipment. We have a table set up where you can put in that information. And you can see right here on customer 23900, they have 3 ship-to addresses. In our table, you'll see those 3 ship-to addresses and then also a default. And what this is used for is if you have a different account based on where that's shipping to, you can put a different account information into each of these ship-to addresses. Or if it's just one for everybody, you would put that into the default. When you go to ship a third party, the first place we look at is that ship-to address. And if there's no account information there, then we fall back to the default. The next table for shipping accounts would be is if your customer wants to use their own shipping account. That follows much of the same logic based on the ship-to address. You know, if they have a different account they want to use based on which location it's being shipped to, they can do that. Or then there's the default that will cover all of them. And lastly, we have drop ship address setup. And this would be a situation where you can change the label to make it seem like it's coming from a different place. The Agility Shipping user interface can be accessed from multiple places, and I'll show you those. First and foremost, from within our Agility Explorer. It's in the Sales and AR menu. It's called the Fulfillment Manager. You can also access it using the Fulfillment Manager standalone executable, which a lot of customers will just put at a shipping station, and then they don't have to worry about going through everything else that is in Agility Explorer. Also, currently, if you have the 32-bit client of SAP installed, you can access it through SAP Business One. Sometime in the near future, we are going to release a 64-bit version of our software, and at that time, we will be compatible with the 64-bit client, but at the current time, we are only 32-bit. The last way to use Agility Shipping would be through silent shipping on a handheld. That is not anything that we offer out of the box because it is such a customized process, but it can be tailored to allow shipping from the handheld to take place. And then the final setup is the ability to interface a shipping scale. There's multiple ways that we can work to get the weights into Agility Shipping, because a weight is a requirement in order to make the shipment. And one of those ways would be to use a scale. We offer two scales that we already have the settings for in our software. However, if you have the proper information of another scale, you can interface those scales in as well. And then that's as simple as coming into the shipping UI once it's open, and you hit the F5 key, and it will capture that weight from the scale. And then most importantly, how do we get the labels to print out? That's all done like the rest of our printing through our document management system. With Agility Shipping, we have included the ability that you can define a printer based per user and per carrier. So a lot of times you might use a different label for different carriers. You can actually have those print out on separate or the same printers. The important thing about label printing at this time is the only label size that is currently supported through Agility Shipping is 4x6, but that will be changing. And if you get something customized on a handheld, the same setup can take place. You can, once again, define a different printer per carrier when printing from a handheld. So let's go ahead and look at Agility Shipping. I will go ahead. I have an order ready for us to look at. And I've already loaded it. On the left, of course, is SAP. On the right is our Fulfillment Manager. I've already packaged this shipment for us for this first example. And we'll go ahead and get started with shipping. If we go back and look at the shipping type, the transport code, you can see that I have UPS second day air selected. And if I go back to the mapping that I talked about earlier, I'm just going to go ahead and put this back to prepaid. So I'm going to expect the UI to come up as second day air AM and prepaid. So you can now see that up here On the top, you see the UPS, FedEx, and USPS buttons, but UPS is the only one that is currently enabled, and that comes from that ship type mapping. Since I do not have a FedEx service and payment type mapped to that transport code, I cannot use FedEx and UPS. So I'll go ahead and select UPS. And you can see that my 2 packages came in, and they already have weights and dimensions. I'll get into dimensions here in a moment, but the way the weights came in is we're reading off of the item master table. So if you have weights set up on your item masters, we'll go ahead and pull those in, and then we can populate a weight. If those are not set up, it'll show up as 0, and those will have to be added on. You will not be able to ship until you add those in. And then you can see billing is prepaid, so that came through correctly, and then the service type is the second day air AM. As I said earlier, the billing is not something that can be changed at time of shipping. If that needs to change for any reason, it would have to go back and be changed on the order, then brought back into the shipment. However, the service type, you can still select any of the available service types. So I would just go ahead and leave this at second day air. In my settings, I had require signature set. So it came through requiring a signature. However, I can decide to turn that off. Also, I have include a return label. We have the ability for you to include a return label on every shipment, which I have turned on right now. And then you can turn it off one by one. Or if you don't have it turned on, you can turn it on by shipment. When I did toggle that, you might have noticed that the return label settings disappeared and then came back. And this is just so you can verify then the return label from address, the return label to address, and then there's some defaults that you can set up. You can determine how you want that package to come back. Some people will send a package out second day air, but return, they might just bring back ground. You can also set a predefined weight or use the outbound weight. You can also set different or no reference numbers for that return shipment. Or you can set a completely separate reference for that return shipment. Also, with the reference field mapping that we set up earlier, you can see that I had order 1504, my order number came through, and my purchase order number came through. However, that's another thing. I can go ahead and change this at the time of shipping, and it will track into the label. So then we'll go ahead and everything's good. We're happy with everything, and we'll go ahead and ship the shipment. Now it has finished that call to UPS. I now have my shipping labels here, and I'm just printing them on the screen for you to see, but this is for the first package. You'll see the shipment label. And if I scroll to the next label, you can see this is the return label for that package that is automatically printed out. The third label is the main label for the second package, and then the return label. So now that that shipment's done, I'll refresh this order. You can see the order's closed, and now the delivery has been created. And if I pull up the freight section, and this goes back to those freight codes, this is how they were split out. The freight coming from UPS was $94, and then the handling charges, which were those per package charges, $10 for the first one and $5 for the second, is $15. So going a little bit further, I want to show you an example of then how you can automate some of the dimension processes. Within our settings, you can predefine package types. And you can see here, I have a large number of package types, different cartons and pallets. You can define dimensions and also teraweights, depending how granular you want to get with this. So in this situation, this package is a little over 9 inches, a little over 6 inches by 2 inches. I can choose to have Fulfillment Manager require a certain package be picked when I add a carton. This is an option that can be turned on and off. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new shipment. I go ahead and add a new carton. And you can see that list of cartons and package sizes came up. So I'm going to go ahead and select this first one. And then I'll go ahead and add an item to that carton. And I'll go ahead and ship. And you can see that the dimensions came in. So let's talk a minute about where we get our information from. We have decided that when we're developing this product to kind of standardize where it comes from. So I wanted to share that information with you. When we go after a ship to address, these are the fields we're pulling that information from. Ship to address 1 is coming from the RDR 12 Street S. Address 2 is from the block S, and then the city, state, zip, and country. For ship to phone numbers, we have created our own UDF. And that will be the first place we look. However, if we do not find any phone numbers in that UDF, then we fall back because the shipments do require a phone number. So our first fallback is to the OCPR Tel 1 and then the OCRD Phone 1. We do something similar with a ship to contact name. We have a UDF for that as well. And then we fall back to 2 other locations as well. So some of the features that we have coming up that are not quite out yet, but we're in the process of working on is this list here. One of the things we've been asked for a lot is the ability to ship packages that aren't associated with a sales order. So that's something that's in process, you know, whether it just be some random product in your warehouse that is not necessarily an inventory item, or you need to ship something to another location. Hopefully here in the near future, you'll have that ability. We're looking at the ability for in a process to create return shipping labels from an RMA, create shipping labels from an inventory transfer. Then also looking at those labels, you know, I mentioned that we only currently support a 4x6 label. With UPS and FedEx especially, there are additional label sizes. So we're working on getting the support built in to be able to print those additional label sizes. Also with FedEx, they have their dock tab labels, which provide additional information. So we're working on a way to make that happen. Carrier box selection. So this would be your predetermined size boxes that carriers have. We're adding in the ability to have that as a selection because those sometimes have different postage rates, you know, especially with the USPS, they have the flat rate boxes. We're working on a process to be able to email shipment notifications. We're also working on a component that could be used during a quoting process where you could estimate shipping costs. And then finally, we need to integrate in a way to identify shipments with dangerous goods. So that's my overview now. Chase, were there any questions that came up?
Hey Gabe, yeah, we did have a couple of questions here. One of the first things I figure I'll just address it. Um, so when it comes to things like signature capture, within the entire, outbound process here of the items, that is something that currently is done through tailoring with WiSys, right? So it's not a part of any out of the box applications. And what we can do is we can add signature capture to any form at any point in the process flow, to make that a part of your solution. So that's just something to keep in mind there that that's fully tailorable anywhere where you see signature capture being a fit or important to the process. It can be added as long as you're using Agility 360 on a native Android device. We're able to take advantage of that native Android and utilize signature capture. Gabe, do you have anything to add to the signature capture point there too? Because I know that you're heavily intertwined with the out of the box applications.
No, I think you covered that just fine. I mean, we have nothing out of the box because it is a process that is better tailored to a customer's specific needs and how they want to capture that and what they want to capture. So I think you covered that just fine.
Another question that we had here as well, that I answered in the chat, but it's worth mentioning in case anybody else here is wondering. I know this is mostly um, SAP customers or partners that sell SAP, but this product is available for Macola as well. So, going forward, Agility shipping is available for any ERP system that we are partnered with and that we work with.
Yeah, it's important to realize that agility shipping is the portion of our software really that just completes the shipping process with the carriers. The other portions, the fulfillment manager, that's something that's been in our product, specifically the Macola product, for a long time. And in the Macola space, of course, we had ShipRush as a third-party partner that we integrated with, and so this is basically a replacement for that ShipRush product to tie it closer into our product to have better control and better flexibility.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's another opportunity for us to listen to all of your input. I work mostly with partners. I tell my partners this all the time, but this goes for customers and prospects as well. Everything that you guys tell us is important to you about these products that goes into the new development going forward, right? So now we have full control over the shipping solution, so we can actually address things based on your input, which just helps us make a better product for everyone. And Gabe, I have one more here, or actually, I'm getting a couple more questions in. Um, so really quickly, do you want to give an explanation on how this affects inventory in SAP Business One when we ship the items out of the system? What exactly happens to the inventory and the packages in WiSys? Just a little bit more of a description of all the effects that the shipping has on the products.
Well, it would have the same effect as if a customer's doing an LTL shipment now currently, all that is handled. The actual inventory in SAP is handled through a call to the SAP DI API. We pass the appropriate information, and then the inventory is relieved appropriately. The appropriate GL transactions are made. As far as, are you talking about our tables too as well, Chase?
Yeah, I think I wasn't 100% sure based on the question, but I think it's worth addressing our tables as well and what happens to the packages there, and maybe talking a little bit about the shipment status and the package status, just to highlight that information.
Yeah, I'll do the best I can without getting, I don't know everybody's level of expertise, so I don't want to get too granular on here, but we can definitely dive in deeper if there's more information needed. But right here in Fulfillment Manager, you can see that this order is currently in the status and not shipped. So when an order is packed in Fulfillment Manager, either through directly here in Fulfillment Manager or from a handheld device through pack cartons or pack pallets, or even our newer pick to carton, which is basically packing in a carton while also picking from a pick list, is taking two processes and combining them into one. That information is all stored in R tables, not in SAP tables. So we have some statuses in there, and being not shipped, which would show up on our shipment table, and then our package table, it would show up as in a packed status. So I have packed this, but I have not shipped this. And then this shipment that I demonstrated earlier, status of S. So this then would have taken that shipment status to shipped, and I would also taken the packages to ship. So you can create grids in Agility Explorer to view all this information, so you can go back and see packages and shipments that are either waiting to be shipped, that are staged, or they've already been shipped. Does that help, Chase?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking, was worth going over, and just to draw on that a little bit more too, in SAP, we have the ability, right, to look at all the transactions that have happened with items and understand where items are going and where they're coming from. We give you that same ability with our packaging layer. So when it comes to information at the package level, even if the package is no longer in the system, right, and virtually what you see in person with physical inventory, the package is gone, we keep that in that ship status so that you have that ability to go back, look through the transactions, and make sure you understand your data. Let's see here. I have two more questions here. One I'll address quickly. So we have a question here about tracking numbers and where those are stored. So Gabe, if you want to shed a little bit of light on exactly where we store those in WiSys and in SAP, whenever we enter in a tracking number at the shipment level here in Fulfillment Manager.
Yeah, so in Fulfillment Manager, you can go back to the shipment. And down here, when I click on a package, you can view the package information. So there's the tracking information for that first package, and then the tracking information for the second package, when it was shipped, and so forth. Additionally, we write information to the delivery. So you can see the tracking number is written then to a delivery as well. In this situation, I believe this is the master tracking number, if I remember correctly. Once again, that's something that if you are looking for something a little bit different, you could easily create a grid that would you'd be able to view that data in Agility Explorer. So instead of having to come in here and find the shipment, you could actually have a grid that lists everything, because that information is stored in our package table. Real quickly, that led me to think about one thing I forgot to cover, was this button called Daily Summary. Our first several customers that tried out Agility Shipping were just confused because they'd been used to running an end-of-day process. And this is needed in several other shipping solutions, including ShipRush, because they would store all the information locally and then transmit it at the end of the day to UPS, and then it would print out a report of everything. With Agility Shipping, we are instantly making that web call and transmitting that data as soon as you're shipping, so that process has gone away. What this daily summary does is it gives you a brief rundown of what you've shipped for that day. So you can pull up any day or a range of days, and then you can see what you shipped by, and it breaks it down by location and by carrier. So this is just a simple report that can, of course, be customized. This is just something to get started so you can see things. Tracking information could easily be added to that. And then you can even, print out that report. We have a simple starter crystal report that, once again, can be customized. And then this has, tracking information. So there's multiple places, multiple ways to view, get the data that you would require.
Thanks, Gabe. That was perfect. And yeah, we got one more here that I didn't address. So on serialized items, anything serialized right in the outbound process there, typically we can handle that based on your rules, right? So it goes off of the customer's rules based on what the situation would look like. But we do have the ability to, force certain serials based on what you assign to the sales order if that was desired. You can do that through like our directed picking. If you issue to a pick list, you can tell your pickers, okay, these are the serials that we want to pick for the item. Or you can give the picker full control and allow them to select the sales orders that they pick for the shipment whenever they are packing it. But that decision and what cereals are packed on the shipment would, of course, happen at the picking or packing level once the shipment is being built and the physical inventory is being taken off of the shelf and assigned to the shipment. That is how that would work. So it's based on your own rules. Cereals can be assigned beforehand if that's how you want to utilize it and tell your picker which cereals to select, or they can have full control. That's something, of course, that you would want to consult with your WiSys business consultant on for them to help you understand the best way to handle any serial number related transactions. All right, that looks like all the questions that we had for today. I think we covered everything here, Gabe. I appreciate your time. I think that this was a fantastic learning lab. Like I said, everyone, this is a new product. I was really excited to get Gabe here for you guys to give you a rundown on agility shipping. There's just a lot that goes into it and a lot of brand new stuff. It was informational for me as well. So thank you, Gabe. We're happy to have you here today.
You're welcome. Yep.
All right. And if anybody needs any additional enablement on this, feel free to reach out to me directly. Typically the majority of your questions I can answer, but if it's something I can't help on, I can get you to the right place and help you get the enablement you need. So any agility shipping questions that stem from this, feel free to reach out to me directly.